que me contestes.
For those of you unfortunate enough to remember, just before the year 2024 ended, we covered the series Dexter the Dog. And just the other day, I saw that there has been a brand new entry in this disturbing analog series. I feel like deep down I repressed the memory of Dexter, because when I saw the new entry, it was like all the horrors flooded back into my brain. If you don't recall, we learned in the last Dexter video that there is a group of these scientists whose goal is to traverse alternate dimensions. They specifically have been utilizing this mirror as a way to try and communicate with whatever exists on the other side. What they end up getting, however, is Dexter the Dog. Dexter the Dog is labeled as Experiment 0002, and he isn't the only experiment who exists here, as we are briefly introduced to Bon, who seems to have gotten himself lost in the back rooms. However, Bon ends up getting captured by the corporation behind the science team. Just look at the little guy. We also end up seeing as a team gets sent through the mirror to try and get some on-site looks, which doesn't sound like a very good idea. Needless to say, I'm very confused and frightened to continue on with Dexter, and to see just what sort of insanity ensues in this world. We've got alternate dimensions, a common theme recently I must say, and a killer demon dog. What could possibly go wrong? As always, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the original series created by EXP Goat. There have been a handful of videos now that feature their work, and there's so much more I haven't even seen yet. But let's strap in, make sure the locks are tight, and head in through the mirror portal and hope we don't run into Dexter the Dog. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below, including the subscribe and bell notification so you can be a part of every new upload. Also, real quick, just wanted to mention that me and some of the gang are going to be at Phoenix Fan Fusion all 3 days, June 6th through the 8th. Not affiliated with the event in any way, just going to have a fun time, so if any of you already have your tickets or were planning on it, you might see some familiar faces. Be sure to follow us on our Instagram to get more details as the event comes closer. But anyways, now you can pass through. Little Dexter, horror video. Now it isn't very clear if this video is necessarily canon to the Dexter universe. It's only 20 seconds long and not a lot happens. But who in their right mind would want to skip past Little Dexter? Just look at him. Well, that wasn't very fun. After our poor little pup has what appears to be a seizure, all we are left with to end off this tape is this eerie frame. Now you would think that there wasn't much to gather from this. It's just Dexter as a puppy, and then perhaps his horrific transformation into the monster he is today. But a comment caught my eye that claims that there is a hidden message in Morse code that apparently translates to, "His arrival will be celestial." Now I would normally not put too much thought into that, but the creator themselves have liked the comment, leading me to start believing. This certainly sounds like Dexter himself may just be a celestial, and I fear what his arrival brings with it. Dexter the Dog, Missing Unit. Our tape opens up and we are brought right to the event our last tape ended us off at, with Dexter breaking through the mirror and wreaking havoc. We can hear over the intercom a lady essentially telling everyone to evacuate, but we are then met with quite the disturbing image. At first, it appears that this could be a crack in the wall, and the fact that this red ooze seems alive is totally not gross at all. However, this blob then gets labeled as being our character Valentine. Now, how in the world did this happen? This is leading me to believe that this is actually a photo of the ground. If you remember back, our last look at Valentine had him lying on the floor with his head and all his limbs severed. So how in the world did he turn into this sentient ooze? Don't look at me, I don't know. Not yet at least. And as it turns out, that was all just the opening. But it's now time to head into part 1. In an odd turn of events, we end up cutting to what looks to be some televised program. However, our guest of today's episode doesn't get as much as a breath out before the Alternative Science Center interrupts the show and takes us to this emergency broadcast. We end up learning that an immediate curfew is being put in place in priority urban areas starting at 9 p.m. tonight, and it won't end until 5 a.m. We are told that the areas under surveillance are Sector 4B, Sector 5C, and Sector 3A. Unsurprisingly, however, we are fed some false information. According to our reporter, this is all due to some secret rituals taking place. I guess they aren't that far off. We are warned that we can't look or talk to these people performing these rituals. And just to let us all know they mean serious business, it is said that even if we do not follow the curfew laid out, then it will lead to the assumption that we are one of them. It's recommended to disconnect all shortwave radios. It's recommended to disconnect all shortwave radios, keep curtains closed, and most importantly, remain calm. Ironically, right after she says this, our footage cuts out and begins to glitch. But our next bit has us listening in on an internal communications channel, and we overhear a conversation being carried out by a senior Dozna. And we overhear a conversation being carried out by a senior Dozna, the head of this whole alternative science center, and Hector, who is a surveillance operator. According to the text, the subject of this call is related to Dexter's escape and the activation of the urban containment protocol. From the looks of it, Senior Dozna ordered to cover up this whole incident, conjuring up this curfew and spreading false information about satanic cults. Once the call begins, however, we end up learning about some interesting developments. According to Hector, Dexter has managed to scale the Red Perimeter facility. Dozna seems taken aback by the news and questions how this could have happened given Dexter was under constant surveillance. I imagine this is Dexter's first escape, and we are about to witness this public protocol enacted. Sure enough, Dozna is not very happy about this news, and as expected, he urgently orders Hector to activate the night protocol immediately. The goal is to make it to where no one in the public encounters Dexter, and unfortunately, it isn't really for safety reasons, but for security ones. See, they don't want anyone finding out what they have been doing, going so far as to say that if someone does encounter Dexter in the wild, then that person is to be locked up right alongside him. I'm guessing to tie up loose ends. All the secrecy doesn't end just at the public, however. Senior Dozna orders that just him, Hector, and the capture team are to be made aware of this incident. No one else in the Science Center. But it's now time to see the capture team in action. We see as Team Charlie flies overhead in their helicopters, scanning the forest below, trying to find any sign of this monstrous dog. We are then brought to this lagoon, except we aren't following anyone on the capture team. This sounds like just a random civilian. We end up getting introduced to Gabriel, our cameraman, who is taking the risk of being out past curfew to try and capture footage of Satanists. You know, the fabricated story that the Science Center came up with. Unfortunately for Gabriel, it sounds like he got caught up in one too many rumors, claiming that this is the same gang of people who killed a young boy at an earlier time. All these pieces are falling apart to form a very stressing puzzle, and I don't like it. Gabriel is almost certain that these events transpired in this exact forest, and he claims to be dying of curiosity to find out anything about this ordeal. What's interesting is, as of right now, we know that there are no Satanists out in the forest. However, Gabriel's mention of this boy that's been captured and killed, going so far as to say he was fed to a goat, leads me to believe that there is a whole lot more to this universe than I initially believed. Is it possible that there really are Satanists in these woods, and the Alternative Science Center just coincidentally came up with that as a fake scenario? That'd be pretty funny, not going to lie. Gabriel notices that the skies are flooded with police helicopters all out searching for something, so he is going to have to be extra cautious navigating these woods for the make-believe Satanists. Thankfully, Gabriel retains some semblance of reality, not believing that a demonic goat really exists, but he is afraid of running into Satanists, because who knows what they're going to do. Our footage ends up taking us to our next bit. As it appears, we are still in the eyes of Gabriel, except now we are deep within the woods. As we walk through the forest, Gabriel ends up stumbling upon a haunting discovery, a sock just hanging off this branch. Now, this could mean a lot of things. Gabriel questions how this could have gotten here, but we very quickly find out that it isn't just us in the forest right now. I gotta say, Dexter's looking a lot larger than I was anticipating. Gabriel begins to haul ass the other direction, but somehow, someway, he ends up finding his way to that damn dog. And well, it doesn't end well to say the least. After poor Gabriel is attacked and assumed to be dead, it appears that our helicopters in the sky were able to find Dexter off of that incident, as it sounds like some form of rifle is shot down at the dog, and I imagine they are of course trying to keep it alive. However, our scene cuts out and we are brought to a classified event update report, classifying subject 0002, aka Dexter, as located. But there's also a bunch of text here that contains some important info. Time to pull out the dictionary. At 2200 hours, classified subject 0002 was located on the northeast perimeter of the Laguna de Luna forest by members of the Charlie Rural team. At the time of location, the subject was in a state of extreme excitement, with visible blood traces and extremities on its face. The partially eaten corpse of a male individual... Dude, a stroke, I'm gonna collapse. The partially eaten corpse of a male individual preliminarily identified as Gabriel, last name to be verified, approximately 18 years of age, was found left directly beside the experiment, as if it were some kind of offering or an immediate discard. The scene has been secured under biological contamination protocols. The body will be transferred to an in-house facility for full forensic analysis. This certainly paints Dexter in quite the different, more horrific light. Now, don't get me wrong, Dexter has always been horrifying, but in this way the report describes him, ugh. Dexter is literally getting excited in his creepy dog brain when he slaughters Gabriel. Is this all just animalistic? Or is there something more sinister and calculated going on behind those dog eyes? Our next page ends up giving us some more information that's going to need some more translating. 0002 was sedated and confined in a Type 7B containment capsule. The transfer was made to the central facilities of the Advanced Study Sector. Threat level updated to critical level. Interaction with the subject is restricted to level 6 or higher personnel only. Interestingly enough, we do end up learning a bit more about Bond. Bond 32A continues under strict neurosensory observation. No escape attempts reported, but exhibits intermittent episodes of agitation and verbal dissociation and temporary loss of consciousness. The PSI team remains direct 24-hour surveillance. To end off this report, it reads that any violations of protocol will be treated as an insider threat. These guys are not messing around. The next bit we end up cutting to has us looking once again at Bond, who remains restrained and definitely does not seem happy. We then see that Dexter has been restrained as well, somehow, and it sounds like some new tests are about to be run on him. Dexter will go through continuous neurological monitoring, studies of motor response patterns under high-stress stimuli. That's certainly a great idea. And apparently an application of the controlled communication module. I don't think I like where this is going. From what we can read in the next bit of text, it sounds like this is all in an attempt to assess possible cognitive ability, which is something I'm curious about, but do I really want to know that answer? We then quickly return back to Valentine, who unfortunately is still just this red goop moving around. Our next segment has us listening in on a conversation once again between Senior Dozna and Hector. Hector informs that Dexter has entered the observation room, and from the sounds of it, they both are able to look at Dexter through some glass. And Senior Dozna seems a little concerned with how immobile he is. Which, why? This is leading me to believe Senior Dozna has some more sinister intentions in mind. My theories immediately get a bit stronger once he demands to speak to Dexter through the intercom. Hector obliges and opens the channel. Sure enough, we see Dexter and his blood-covered mouth. Poor Gabriel. Dozna asks what he is, and if he's listening. But as expected, Dexter doesn't respond. The question of why Dexter looks so human comes into play, and Dozna asks more sternly what he is. To which, I guess this time, Dexter didn't like that very much.
Que me contestes.
We end up holding onto this close-up of Dexter for a lot longer than I'd like, but we end up quickly flashing to some other footage. We see Bond freaking out in his restraints, some older clips of Dexter being a menace, but we then end up flashing to this random girl until we get this tape's haunting final frame. The last thing we end up seeing on this tape is text that just translates to, "We pray for the superior's forgiveness. We wanted to play at defying his laws. And now, punishment awaits us. May God protect us." So something we have to mention straight away is that final frame. It looks like something is being birthed out of Valentine. I have a feeling that may be a bigger clue than we might think. Dexter's origins have always been up in the air, but I think this tape points at quite the obvious answer. I don't really believe Dexter is a demon, even though it's still a possibility. But I think Dexter was probably once a human. I actually think all of these weird creatures may in fact be humans, or once humans. Is it too preposterous to assume that this alternative science center, in its quest to journey through alternate dimensions, sent humans through portals and then through unfortunate happenstances, those people get trapped? Maybe Dexter is someone back for revenge. The only thing holding this theory together is the fact that it looks like a new creature is being birthed out of Valentine. This could be something they haven't seen before, but it could be something they already have a protocol for. It also seems like Dozna is all too eager to get into contact with Dexter. The fact that he seemed upset when Dexter wasn't as awake and aware as he had wanted has me very worried. What exactly does he want Dexter for? It is possible that the final text hints that Dexter is truly some kind of higher power, whether it be demonic or what. but I feel like we are at the cusp of finding out some answers in future installments. At the end of the day, I can say if you haven't already checked it out, by all means give the series a watch, as well as check out all the other works across the channel, as there are a ton I haven't even seen yet. I definitely have been enjoying my time with Dexter the Dog. His design remains to be haunting, and I really like how he has just been this brutal creature so far. I'm curious to see how far they will go with his consciousness. If he truly was a human, God knows what's going on in this dog brain. However, that'll be about it for this video. As always, be sure to keep leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord where I live inside that alternate mirror. But if you'll excuse me, I gotta go feed my dog Dexter real fast.